Welcome back, everybody. We are the Alter Ego Brothers. I'm Nick, that's Andy, and today we are talking the Fantastic Four. But before we move on, I want to let you guys know we have some exclusive content over on our TikTok. And without further ado, let's get started. So if you want to know what this story is about, real briefly, without spoilers, roll the clip.
We should take Bikini Bottom and push it somewhere else!
And with that, we're moving on. I want to talk about the acting. So first off, I thought the family was excellently cast. I thought they each played their roles spectacularly. With my favorite performance being Joseph Quinn as the Human Torch is just a lovable airhead who is doing what he can to fit in with the family and help out. I thought the dynamics between the Human Torch and the Thing were perfect, as well as the relationship of Reed Richards and Sue Storm as a couple. I just had a blast. Being nitpicky though, I will say that I do think, oddly enough, Pedro was probably the weaker actor out of this ensemble, which I did not expect. But he still played Reed Richards to a T. What did you think of the Fantastic Four actors?
Casting for roles like this is super important just because when you're working with each other so closely, you need to get along in real life because that comes to fruition when you actually have to have these characters that actually get along too. My favorite was Vanessa Kirby. I thought she did a fantastic job, but even though the casting was really well put together, I still think the casting over at DC Superman was the better of the casting bunch.
I do want to quickly touch on the villains of this movie because they are near and dear to my heart. Silver Surfer has been one of my favorite Marvel characters since I was a kid. She did an excellent job. I loved the Silver Surfer, I loved the CGI, and Galactus. Holy cow, Galactus! Finally done right on the big screen. Caveat, I think we needed to see a lot more of both of them. I think one of the places where this movie kind of stumbles is that you can tell that there's a lot left on the cutting room floor. The story is still cohesive, but there are moments and scenes where you feel like the tension isn't quite resolved with what you just saw in the previous scene. All that considered, I still gave acting full marks, 2 out of 2 in my scoring sheet. What do you think about the villains?
Galactus was so cool, so huge. The audio effect and the cinematography they had for Galactus 2 just made him seem so freaking powerful, like more powerful than God, like he created the universe. I didn't quite understand their purpose though. I see this huge creature just wanting to destroy all these planets. I'm not really sure why still. The Silver Surfer warned Earth that Earth was on the list to be eaten, but apparently Earth was really freaking far away. They had to travel in a wormhole for quite a while to even reach him. So like, why are they even worried about that? There's so many other planets along the way to worry about first. And then I wondered like, why is she even warning them? Like, who cares? But then they do actually explain that, and that's not a spoiler, that is in the trailer. I also wondered why she had to have a surfboard in space and stuff, but apparently they did question that too, so I did appreciate that. So my thoughts were being kind of answered, but you have this huge ship. Who built this ship? You see no one else. And I was just like, it just feels like a wasted character to me and should have been like a 2 or 3 part movie series with such a powerful character. But that was me. I thought that was completely wasted on that part of the story.
But that kind of leads me beautifully into my next segment, the broader MCU and what this movie means for it. Unfortunately, unlike DC's new Superman, I don't think that the change in tone is going to have much effect on the MCU as it stands right now, just for the simple fact that Marvel plans so far ahead, and it's actually to their detriment at this point. I thought this movie tonally was a much needed change for the MCU, and it's disappointing that we're not going to see any fruits bear of what people liked of this movie for probably 2 to 3 years yet. That kind of had me bummed at the end of it. I know you've been a pretty harsh critic of the MCU, Andy, so what did you think about this movie, even compared to something recent like The Thunderbolts? Did it to myself. Can't be mad, did it to myself.
I think it felt like they tried to do something a bit different, which was nice. It always felt like MCU always played it safe, and that's why I'm notable for just always giving it middle of the pack for everything. I left the theater saying that I forgot it was an MCU movie. It appears to me that maybe since this was a change in tone for MCU and they're not used to doing that maybe they struggled figuring out how to do that, and they hopefully will get better at it moving forward. But some of the qualities of the MCU just were still there. And what I mean by that is that there's just these huge plot hole issues that I have with it. They build something up just to like almost go the complete other direction sometimes, and I get frustrated.
All right, and with that, I'm going to open the floor to you if there's anything else you would like to talk about real quick before we wrap this up.
Nope.
All right, well, I guess we'll just wrap this thing up then. I give this an 8 out of 10. I thought it was a breath of fresh air for Marvel. I love the tone. I love the acting. Overall, it was a really fun time. I had a blast. I do think people should go to the theater to see this movie. It was an awesome experience.
Okay, let me take a look at this and make sure there's no dust on it, because it says that I'm a 7 out of 10 for an MCU movie, above a 5 out of 10. What in the world? I'm looking at this correctly. I enjoyed it.
Wow.
There were the things that honestly, for the most part, was middle of the pack, I'll be honest with you. But a couple of the things that really stuck out to me were the special effects and the cinematography, and I think they went hand in hand really well. That's where they got the edge. Everything else was pretty middle of the pack for me, though. So take that with a grain of salt. But it's my first MCU movie I've rated higher than a 5.
All right, I'm shocked by that, but we're actually putting Fantastic Four at a 7.5 out of 10, which goes in the 7 column. I feel really good about that.
Good. I'm glad.
Thanks, Eddie. Thanks, buddy. And that'll be it for us. Thank you for liking and commenting down below. Be sure to go check out our TikTok for our exclusive content. And remember, we're just two regular dudes
Doing regular reviews. John and Whiskers will be so proud of me.